Now, for our assembly, we start with checking out our tank. The first thing we look at is the fact that the tank's got a dust cover on it. Now, normally this indicates to us that this tank is full. Now, before you take a tank away from the shop, make sure you check the pressure in the tank. Somebody could have inadvertently put the dust cover on an empty tank. So make sure you check that. So that's why we have the dust cover on there. If you use the tank to any extent, take the dust cover off and leave it off. Now, we're going to move down here. On the shoulder of the tank, of course, this is our valve, this is our neck, this is our shoulder. On the shoulder of the tank, we're looking for the manufacture date or the hydro date if it's past the 5 years of the manufacturing tape. So we want to make sure that that's good. Now, we're going to drop down and we're looking on the side of the tank and we're looking for our VIP sticker. VIP means Visual Inspection Program sticker. This is good for a year, so we're going to check this and make sure that this sticker. Now, this particular tank is a nitrox tank. It's indicated with this nitrox sticker, but it's also indicated here on the VIP sticker that this tank has been O2 clean. Now, one other thing we can do, if we take the dust cover off, we always want to check the O-ring, and we're checking the O-ring. Now, O-rings can be many different colors. They can be green, they can be clear, they can be black, whatever. We just want to make sure that there's an O-ring in there, that it's not damaged or frayed, and that it's properly seated. So make sure you check this when you, of course, when you check the pressure when you pick up your tank. Now we're going to continue our assembly. We've checked our tank. Now what I'm doing is I'm looking to make sure the direction that my tank opening is facing in. I'm going to put my BCD on that same side. So opening of the tank, opening of the BCD. Now I'm going to turn the BCD so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take the valve strap and I'm going to put the valve strap under my left thumb. If I don't do this, then what's going to happen is this valve strap is going to get tangled up between the backpack and the tank when I go to put it on. I'm going to loosen my tank strap. I'm not going to unthread it. I'm just going to loosen it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to control the BCD with my left hand, and I'm going to control the strap with my right hand. And I'm going to pick the BCD up, put the strap over the tank, and before I get down very far, I'm going to go ahead and put the valve strap over the valve of the tank. I'm going to control the BCD with my left hand. I'm going to control the strap, the tank strap, with my right hand. And what I'm looking to do is only go down so that the top of the valve and the top material of the BCD are about level. It's okay if the valve is slightly below the material of the BCD. When I do that, I'm ready to snug up my tank strap. So I'm going to reach over. Here's my tank strap. And you'll notice that when I pull, this tank strap is snug. It's very, very tight and snug. So I want to make sure that I've got good tension on that. If you pull on this and it's too loose, then your tank is going to come loose when you get in the water. So you want to make sure it's nice and tight. Check the tension. Hold on to the tail. Don't put your hand underneath this cam or it will pinch your fingers. So just hold on to the tank, hold on to the tail, pop it across, and then we want to make sure we seal down the Velcro of the strap. We don't want this tank strap waving around to get caught on somebody's wetsuit and get pulled loose. So that's installing our BCD. At the same time, we're going to look to make sure the BCD is basically square with the opening of the tank. We don't want the BCD turned cattywampus. We want it parallel to the opening. We're going to be moving on to the installation of the regulator. Now, we're going to install our air delivery system, better known as regulators. And what we'll do is, if you look, I'm holding my regulator with my left hand. You'll also notice that I held the BCD with my left hand, and you'll notice that the opening of the tank was pointed to the left. This kind of gives you a good reference, especially right-handers, as to the easy and convenient way to do your installation and assembly. Now, I've got my regulators, and they're on the wearer's right side. Regulators are right side of the wearer's BCD. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen my yoke knob. There's a dust cover in here. We're going to push that dust cover out, hold the dust cover out of the way, and I'm going to begin putting the regulator down over the valve. Now, one of the things we want to do is, just before we put it on here, we want to look in the opening. So we want you to look in the opening here to make sure that that little filter in there is nice and clean. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop it down onto the valve, and you'll see it lock into place like that. I'm going to take my left thumb and I'm going to put it on the yoke side, the left yoke side of the yoke. I'm going to use my right hand, and I'm going to begin to slowly tighten with my fingers only the yoke knob while I hold down on the yoke. Now, we're not worried about this yoke being flat and level. We actually want it to tilt to the left side of the BCD. I'm going to continue tightening the yoke knob, fingers only. Don't put your hand on it. Don't put your hand on it. You don't want to over tighten it so it locks down. We want it nice and snug, finger tight. We begin on the left, makes it pretty simple. If you forget which one, the BCD or the reg goes on first, just remember, B is first in the alphabet before R. So I'm going to pick up stay on the left. I'm going to pick up my inflator low pressure hose, and I'm going to check my little slip ring. I want it to move easily. I'm going to disconnect and pull up the BCD inflator hose, and you'll notice that it has a silver Schrader valve here, and we're going to connect our slip ring onto our Schrader valve, put it on, pull down on the slip ring, and it goes up, and you'll hear it click in place. Hold the inflator with one hand, hold the hose with the other, and give it a nice tug to make sure it doesn't come off. You're going to take both hoses are going to go back into the BCD holder, just like that. Now we're going to stay on the left-hand side. We're going to pick up our submersible pressure gauge. Now, these gauges are made out of plastic, and when we open the valve in just a minute, 3,000 psi is going to come up this hose and into this plastic gauge. So we don't want to be looking at the gauge. We want to take the gauge and turn it into the back of the BCD. If you take the gauge and turn it away from you, that's what some people do. Only problem is, if you're on a dive boat and you point the gauge away, you may be pointing at somebody else. So just take it, put it in and hold it. Keep your fingers out from in front of it. Take it and hold it into the back of the BCD. Now, I'm going to turn. I'm going to come up here to my tank opening. and I'm going to put my hand on the tank valve, not the yoke valve, the tank valve. And I'm going to begin slowly opening my tank valve, and you'll see the hoses stiffen up a little bit. And I'm going to continue to open, 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 open. So we want to make sure it's fully open all the way to the stop. You don't have to break it, but fully to the stop, and then we're going to roll it forward just a little bit. And then we're able to check our gauge to make sure we have the air in there that we're supposed to have, okay? So this is your check to make sure just before you dive, that you've got enough air to do your dive, okay? Once we've checked that, we're going to come right back down, and your gauge should have a leash on it. And we're going to take the leash, and you're going to see right here, just above the pocket, there's a D-ring. We're going to connect our leash to the D-ring so that our gauge stays in place. We're not going to take the gauge and stick it into the cummerbund or in the pocket. That's not the way to attach it. We want to attach it using a leash. And now we're done on the left. We're going to move over to the right side. Now, easiest thing to do is just look at the hoses. Which one is the more obvious hose? That's the yellow, of course. And we're going to take our alternate air source. And so we need to check this. Remember, this is a rental unit. So even on your own, before you do your dives, you want to check this. So I'm going to take the mouthpiece. I'm going to face the mouthpiece away from me, and I'm going to push on the purge valve briefly to make sure if there's any spiders or la cucarachas in there, it blows them out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the regulator, I'm going to peel the mouthpiece open, and I'm going to look inside the regulator to see if something's hiding in there. If not, and I feel good, I want to test breathe the regulator. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to take a big breath, put the reg into my mouth, I'm going to blow, and then I'm going to take 3 breaths off the regulator. So I'm going to big breath, so I know my regulator functions properly. Remember, always test your regulators with 3 breaths. That way you'll know your valve has not been turned off. Now, we're going to attach our octo. Now, if we look right down here, we're going to see that we have a stretchy octo holder. And in this case, we would stretch this open, pull it over to the mouthpiece, and it would come completely up over this zip tie. So we would open it up and slip the mouthpiece into it all the way up over the zip tie. Now this particular BCD has an octo pocket. And what we're able to do here is we take the hose, we fold it, we take it, and that can be pushed down inside the octo or alternate air source pocket, and it will stay in place just like that. And it would be real easy to pull out and present, and you're going to learn this in your training, okay? All right, now we've got our primary reg. We're going to take our primary reg and we're going to test it the same way. And then I'm just going to lay this right here. And that is assembly of our scuba.